Thanksgiving in our country has evolved into a holiday of turkey and cranberry sauce and candied yams, all the good stuff. But way back in the days when the first Thanksgiving, it wasn't like you ran out to the Stupa Center and got a big turkey and put it in the oven. You had to go out and harvest the vegetables and hunt the turkey. You had to actually go shoot the turkey. So it's not surprising that Thanksgiving has become a big time for hunters all over America. They go out into the woods every fall and look for pheasant and turkey and deer. And I know that personally, for my brother and my father, this was a big time for them, not only as a sport, but also as a time of bonding. They would go hunting up in the woods of Wisconsin every Thanksgiving.
Where we are today.
Exactly. Abandon the family for 10 days while they would go and hunt deer. And in anticipation of the first time my brother went hunting, he was very excited to get his very first shotgun. This was a big deal. And he waited for months and months until he would get that shotgun, picked it out, knew exactly what type he was going to be getting and everything.
Men are thankful for guns.
A Taurus 38 caliber revolver, a Glock 9mm auto, a Ruger 22 caliber pistol, and a Mauser 380 auto.
They would come back from hunting with tales of their week in the woods in their little hunting trailer. Tales of early mornings spent in deer stands and salt licks, you don't want to know, and all of their bonding things that them and the other men would do. Lots of, I'm sure, off-color jokes and things that you don't talk about in polite society, like passing wind and whatnot, you know. But they were always much happier. They felt much closer. It was a nice time for my brother and my father.
My father and brother were not hunters, but my friend's father was a big hunter, and I manized him from an early age with the really cool camouflage clothes.
A lot of nice gear with hunting.
All those beautiful feathers that would come off the pheasants. Of course, the joy of getting to eat the pheasants that he would shoot and kill, and of course, the turkeys that you get from the wild are delicious.
Wild is better than tame.
I mean, they're fine
any day.
from the Winn-Dixie, but they're not the turkey people. Anyway, we were not lucky enough to bring our cameras today to film men out here in the woods shooting any turkeys or deer, but we were lucky enough to bring our cameras and film some men hunting for slightly different prey. Ba-bum-bum, ba-bum-ba-bum, ba-dum-bum. Today on Manizer, we have offering a rare glimpse of the elusive booby hunters. Booby hunters often are indoors in the privacy of their homes or in what are called gentlemen's clubs, but on rare occasion, the booby hunters come out en masse. Here, we are going to see a booby hunter using a common technique of exposing himself in hopes that his prey will also expose themselves. Booby hunters often try and seduce their prey. They do this on a constant diet of alcoholic drinks, lots of beads, and again, exposing themselves. Here, a booby hunter has captured his prey. The booby hunter's stance is obviously a craned neck and arms outstretched, begging and pleading. There's one, a man points out as all the rest of the booby hunters take notice. Here is a very unique type of behavior. This booby hunter has taken on a temporary camouflage to try and trick his prey. He is pretending to be a lonely little puppy. I'm dejected. Please, he says. Look at me. I'm not a booby hunter. The prey is not fooled. This booby hunter is loaded to the tilt. He's got on the silly hat. He's got the please, please look at me face, and look at all of his beads. That is a completely loaded arsenal. This booby hunter is a very prominent member. This booby hunter has resorted to taking on the persona of the boobies he hopes to see. They are artificial, clearly, as will be some of the boobies that he hopes to see. Yet, he is relentless in his pursuits. Here we have an example of very young booby hunters, chick booby hunters. They are young little chickens. You can see they do not have the arsenals. They have a couple little lame beads and hopes to try, but you can see they are probably not successful. Here again, a booby hunter stands in awe of his prey. He is winding up to throw the beads in hopes of capturing a booby. These booby hunters have decided to take the perch in hopes that maybe below a booby will be struck. Again, the rare glimpse of the booby hunters. Today, captured for you on film.
Thanksgiving is a time for friends and family to gather together for thanks for their joys, the blessings that they share. The day often revolves around a great big meal. But if it were up to men, I'm sure that the meal would revolve around the game. Of course, football. Football, for most men, is synonymous with Thanksgiving. And it's a great excuse to sit back and watch the game after a great big turkey dinner.
On Thanksgiving Day, would you rather have a big turkey dinner or watch football if you could only do one or the other?
One or the other? Definitely football. You have a turkey dinner anytime. With Thanksgiving, magical things happen in the NFL. Especially with old school Barry Sanders. That made my Thanksgiving. But without a doubt, football.
Who's winning?
I'm not sure. This game or the last game?
I love football.
Yeah, you shouldn't assume that just because it's mainly men that watch it, that women don't like football as well. Jill and I, when we were in college, we would sit around on Sundays in positions similar to those of the men, and we would watch the Bears.
The Bears.
Dominating the NFL and creaming everybody in their division.
Again and again and again.
But we probably watch the games, although for love of the sport.
I love the game.
But perhaps for some slightly different reasons than most men watch the game.
First of all, the uniforms of football.
The pants.
The pants. Men don't wear those kind of pants walking around on the streets.
No. Ballet and football is the only place you see those tight, slimming, stick-to-them
How about
kind of
when
pants.
they're getting the hike, when they're hiking the ball?
And
like
we all
this,
know where
they
their
have
hands are.
their hands like just the quarterback. The names
names are great.
of the positions.
You've got the tight end.
Wide receivers.
Exactly. Usually their body types match the name of the position. The tight end, back to the pants.
Right. Wide receiver. Wide, broad shoulders.
Exactly.
The nose guard. Have you ever looked at those guys? Their noses are always broken. Their faces like
Modeled, big hook noses from
Love
so
'em.
many busts.
Love 'em, yeah.
We do. We love that.
Football is great.
And football fans are great. To go to the games and watch
Bears.
these men that are so into the game, whether their team is winning or losing, it doesn't matter. They're all excited about it, and we know from past experience here on Manizer, excitement leads to excitement.
That's for sure.
So we're going to feature today my friend Henry, who is a big man and a big football fan. He's quite the star of our little section at the home games. He's our section's cheerleaders. Everybody does what Henry says.
Does he wear a little skirt?
No, I'm getting him a
Pom-poms?
little skirt for Christmas. I want to get him, since he's a big Saints fan, I'm going to get him one of those halter
Sorry.
tops and a little tutu skirt like they wear with some
Saints-ations.
pompons. We're going to turn Henry into a Saint-sation. But today we're going to show you some of his amazing antics that we all enjoy, on occasion more than the game itself.
We're thankful for football.
And football men.
As many of our vast majority of Manizer viewers know, I live in Massachusetts. And one summer I was lucky enough to live in a house that was built in 1724. I was exploring some of the nooks and crannies of the house and found an old document that was written, I guess, in 1620. And remarkably, it's an account from the original Thanksgiving dinner with the Pilgrims and Indians. And even more amazing is that the account is written what seems like by a woman who was a Manizer even back then. So today, going with our Thanksgiving theme of manizing, I thought it was completely appropriate to read this account of one of the earliest settlers of Manizers here in America. For days we prepared for the gathering, and though I tired, my energies swooned as I watched Miles with his hand slick with my churned butter as he stuffed the turkey's orifice with herbs and leeks. I busied myself cleaning the large, beautifully curved squash that Miles and I had grown with a quick stroking action. Squanto startled me as he arrived with a basket of vegetables that his Wampanoags had grown. Miles stoked my already hot oven as Squanto inserted his corn into the hot holes of the smoldering ashes. "I call it maize," he interjected, "and I called it amazing." I noticed Squanto's hair was beautifully braided with feathers that I had plucked from his pheasant the night before. Many Pilgrims and Wampanoags ate together on this day of thanks, and as the meal came to a close, I felt that Miles, Squanto, and I were the only ones present. Many were indulging in dessert, and as I plated a wide slice of my pumpkin pie for Squanto, just before he took the bite, Miles shot a large dollop of fresh whipped cream on top. "Nothing's too good for my partners," he exclaimed. My thoughts strayed to an already leftover sandwich Miles, Squanto, and I would enjoy later that evening.
Stars are coming out. Look up in the brassy sky, and there they are like gleaming shit, and there's me.
Delivery for Ed Wilson.
What on earth is it?
It's beef, lady. 50 pounds of beef.
Oh, you wait right here. I have to have a word with my husband.
Who are you?
Thank you. Who are you?
I'm Mallory.
You gotta change your name to Beautiful. You a big meat eater, Mallory?
I could be.
You always dressed like that, or you just waiting for me?
Why'd I be dressed like this for somebody I don't know?
Maybe something inside you told you to. You know, like fate. You believe in fate, Mallory?
Maybe.
I'm too happy. Wanna go for a ride? Talk about it?
trying to fold laundry. So I have to do.
See? This is what I get all the time. I'm gonna give her affection. She pushes me away. Then you gotta let me kiss your neck. Don't throw it.
I don't care. Where you scream?
I'm gonna bite that nut knob on the back of your head.
We're gone alone. Are you eating in your seat? You know what? I'm gonna take the phone and shove it up your ass.
Alright, eat your pizza. Alright. Simmer down, ladies. No offense, Jack. What's up? We got a lot to do for tonight's formal and precious little time. This is our biggest event. You get that cat out of the bassinet? And see, everybody must get laid.
We made dinner.
Got pizza and pasta.
The chef.
You know what? I'll do it again.
Ed, look! What'd you say?
Out with the meat man. Back before dawn. Love Mallory.
Ed, they stole your car!
My car? Ooh, that meat man cocksucker. I broke her in and he grabbed her. I'll fix his ass too. Call the cops. Come on!
He's got the bigger belly. More handsome.
He's got a more handsome face, though. Ha ha!
Come on. I got the bigger belly.
You marry me?
Of course I'll marry you. I've been waiting for you to say that for so long. But where are we gonna get married?
Right here, man. This is our church.
We'll be living in all the oceans now.
And you were there. Would you make me very blue? God, for you and this river and this mountain and everything we don't know about. Mickey, do you take Mallory to be your lawful wedded wife to have and hold and treat right until you die? Jesus.
Oh, baby.
Mallory, do you take Mickey to be your... I ain't gonna murder anybody on a wedding day. Baby, by the power vested in me as God of my world, I pronounce us husband and wife. And I am made.
It's so rough, I know. It's a rough life.
I'm not gonna make it. I feel so cold.
Gonna make it, Mal. Get mad.
Just go get this stuff. Just go get the stuff then.
All right. Oh no, hang on now.
Oh, shit.
Stay right there, Mouse. Gotcha.
Ah, there's more. There's
My
more.
God. What have we done? Up on that.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna fucking bash you off the hook.
All right, you have pliers? Step on his tail. Step on it.
Okay.
So you don't get poked.
Ouch.
Good. He's good to go.
Take a picture. Got him?
Got him.
Flying?
He is flying. Airplane. You didn't kiss him.
Is that kissing the car?
So name something that you're thankful for in men.
Their butts. Oh yeah.
They're what?
Their butts.
What do you like about them?
How they're nice and hard and round and, you know, it's a comfort thing, I think.
Comforting.
Men like breasts, women like butts. A guy with a nice, you know, that's it.
I could give a crap about most men, but my daddy's the best man in the world.
And what's so great about your dad? What's some quality you love in your dad?
Huh. Funny, I've never tried to put it into words. He's a good man. He's faithful to my mom. He works his butt off. Honorable, honest. Just a good man all the way around. I think Rhett Butler. You know?
Without Belle Watling.
Without all the drama.
We need you to name something that you're thankful for in men.
I am thankful for their ability to set up the VCR.
Well, let's see. I guess having just married the man of my dreams, I'm happy to have found his that soulmate companionship. And let's see. I'm happy for his company in particular. Does that count? Or the men in general?
That counts.
You kind of lose men in general after you meet the one, you know. So, but he'll stand for all universally. He redeemed my faith in men. Actually, when I met him, I'd given up altogether. So, I'm happy for that sort of re-inspired belief in them.
So, all right, I'm really thankful that they kill bugs because I hate to do it. That's what I'd say. That's pretty much what I'm gonna come up with.
Manizer, we have an exclusive self-help segment about, of course, Scotch. I have one of my Scotch expert friends here today, Tompkins, who's had us over and is going to help us out with Scotch decisions. A woman wants to be informed about Scotch because you might often want to buy a bottle of Scotch for your man. Or men may want to have a nice bottle of Scotch to impress their women or their men friends. So today we're going to clear up some of this cloudiness about Scotch so that we can be impressive to whoever we want to impress about our Scotch prowess here on Manizer. So Tompkins, lead the way, please. I'm your Scotch slave.
If you go out to buy Scotch and you don't know anything about it, you probably will buy a blend. And I was going to show you a blend, but I don't keep any blends in the house.
A blend, I like Chevis.
Yeah, Chevis is a
blend.
good blend, and it's inoffensive, and it's particularly good for making Scotch whiskey sours, which is an adulterated form of Scotch. But if you're going to drink Scotch, you want to drink Scotch neat.
Neat. No ice.
At the very most, a sliver or two of ice, but nothing more.
Right.
Should sully.
No Rob Roy's here.
Nothing more.
Okay.
You can get inoffensive single malt, such as Glenlivet. That's a good single malt, but it doesn't have a lot of character.
Okay. Now, if you bought Glenlivet, how much is that going to put you back? 20 bucks?
Maybe 20, 25, maybe 30. Glenlivet is not a bad Scotch. It's let me pour you a wee dram here.
Wee dram is that Scottish for Scotch?
That's Scotch when you're pouring your own Scotch.
Okay. Okay. So this is Glenlivet.
Yes.
A single malt, sort of not too distinctive.
Not offensive. It's very good.
I like it.
Rolls around on the tongue very well. But then, experimenting with Scotches, I tried a great number of them, and one of my favorites was this Glenmorangie, which is a Highland Scotch, and it's 10 years old, and it has, it's a single malt, and it has a distinctive character that I like.
Now, 10 years, this is younger than the Glenlivet.
It's a little younger than the Glenlivet, yes.
Don't people sort of pride themselves on saying, this is our 80-year-old Scotch?
Well, you know, that sounds so nice, but Glenmorangie 10-year, to me, tastes a good deal better than an 18-year-old, which costs more. And if you've got a little Scotch in you, you really appreciate saving the money.
Sure.
In addition, it retains the rough edges that characterize Scotch. If you age a Scotch for too long, it becomes like Canadian whiskey. It's smooth. It doesn't have any character.
Scotch is something you like or don't like a lot of times. People will drink vodka, I'm not a big vodka drinker, but I'll drink it, you know, but people that don't like...
to see how much more flavor than the Glenlivet this has.
This, you know how they say taste and smell are your strongest sense of memory. I had a good bartender friend, Chip, who I'm sorry is not on our show, who knew I liked Scotch, and he would pour me the Glenmorangie over at the Columns, a beautiful bar to drink Scotch, by the way. And as soon as this comes into my mouth, I'm like right there at the Columns with Chip.
But as you age that away, the 12 and the 15, and particularly the 18-year-old, which costs you 50 bucks, it mellows away the character.
So it's not just about 80-year-olds.
Younger and rougher is what you're after. Which brings us to Lafroig.
Now let me interrupt 1 second real quick. How much Glenmorangie? 20, 25 again?
25 maybe, something like that. That may have been 30, I don't even know. I've got the...
Fancy.
Whatever.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
Everything's going up.
Yeah, well, the economy.
what the heck?
We'll drink
There's some
scotch
things in
anyway.
life you have to pay no matter what the cost.
Exactly. Now, we are talking about young and rough.
This is 10-year-old Lafroig. I believe you can buy some older Lafroig, but there's no point.
Now, Lafroig, is it from Scotland?
It's from the island, Islay, which is the island, the lowland Scotch.
Okay.
As opposed to the Highland Scotch, which is, this is an example of Glenmorangie.
Mm-hmm.
Lafroig is different from all other Scotches that I know, in that there's the taste of the peat.
Ooh, it smells very different.
You know, it's as if you stirred it with a telephone pole. It has an intense creosote taste. And it's
A
an
very
acquired
different
taste.
flavor.
It's an acquired taste.
It's not bad though. It does taste
No.
very different from those
One can
others.
get quite close to this. And
Yeah.
that is today my favorite Scotch.
I like it. It's very unique.
It is unique. It has all the rough edges you want with Scotch. And I think I said at one time, Scotch is like women. You know?
Yeah.
If you date only 18-year-olds, they have no character. They might be beautiful.
But no character.
Just the opposite in Scotch. The younger, the better. And the rougher the edges. Just like you appreciate the rough edges on an older woman.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I like young men, definitely. Young, rough and ready types. But I do have tendency to like the older, more mature man as well. So I guess Scotch is sort of like men too.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Lafroig.
Lafroig
I guess
has the taste.
definitely, if you want to be more unique, I would say this one clearly has its own flavor. Glenmorangie's like an old friend to me.
Oh yeah, it's good Scotch. It
Mhm.
really is.
Glenlivet is sort of like
okay.
Like if you were just, I guess like a call brand. I'm sure that's
Sure.
not, but like if you just served a Scotch and what you
People think
expect,
you're a real swell
what you expect to taste.
because you sprung for
That's
Glenlivet. Yes.
right, and that's what that tastes like.
There's something to be said if you just, instead of Glenlivet, you had Bell's Scotch.
What is?
Which is a rough gut Scotch, but it has more character.
What about like Dewar's? That's a very popular one.
Yeah, that's a blend, I believe.
It might be.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
Chevis, like I mentioned.
Chevis is
I like
a
that
blend. There are a lot of blends, and
What's-
they're okay.
What's Scotch made out
And then
of?
there's, well, it's made of barley and oats that are fermented. And you know, when Suntory started producing Suntory Scotch, which is not Scotch at all, it's made in Japan. They couldn't, they took the formula, they bought a little distillery in Scotland, got the formula, and they went back to their queen.
Back to Japan.
Yeah, right. And they couldn't get it to work. It didn't have the flavor. But you see, in the craggy mountains of Scotland,
It's not as clean.
it's not quite as clean, and there's all sorts of rodents that live in the
So this might be like from the Rat House.
It absolutely could. It could be.
It is a little reminiscent, yes.
But
And
mostly it's because the peat has dropped into it, because the peat is where the creosote comes from.
really?
Yeah. And it's probably just leaky stills that absorb the smoke of the peat fires that are used to distill the stuff. And that's by far the most distinctive Scotch I've ever had. This is good.
I like them. I like them all.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yes. You gotta say that I haven't met a Scotch I couldn't drink.
That's true, yes. And I remember in college I had Scotch nights, and I would refer to them just as that, Scotch nights. And some people have an experience like a Scotch night, and they say, oh God, I never want Scotch again. That's never happened to me. I'm sure the experience I would never want again, some of those Scotch nights. And Zoe was there, I'm sure, back in college, but I do love Scotch.
Yes, indeed, it is a very unique pleasure.
And nowadays, with the cigar bars and very masculine settings, it's good to know what scotch to order, and it's best to experiment with these different ones. I mean, to see what you like.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just about saying, I have this, single malt 80-year-old. That might taste like just
I've
something.
given up all kinds of illicit substances, including cigarettes.
Good.
And cigars.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention young women. What's left but scotch? So you might as well enjoy it.
That's right. So there you have it, scotch. Hold on to something in your life.
That's right.
At least hold on to the scotch.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Tompkins. I hope this helps everyone out here. And we highly recommend.
Straightened out.
Highlandly or lowlandly recommend anyone to go out and have some scotch. Neat.
How old were you when you got your first gun, Atticus?
13 or 14. I remember when my daddy gave me that gun. He told me that I should never point at anything in the house, and that he'd rather I'd shoot at tin cans in the backyard. But he said that sooner or later he supposed the temptation to go after birds would be too much, and that I could shoot all of the blue jays I wanted, if I could hit them. But to remember, it was a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Why?
Well, I reckon because mockingbirds don't do anything but make music for us to enjoy. Don't need people's gardens. Don't nest in the corn cribs. They don't do one thing but just sing their hearts out for us.
Jay. All these clippings about me.
Huh? That's a souvenir of my Oxford days. It was taken in Trinity Quad. The man on my left is now the Earl of Doncaster. Yes. Go check with Wolfsheim. Just do it. I can't talk now. Here you are, whole sport.
Thank you. Come here, quick. Look at that. I'd like to just get one of those pink clouds and put you in it and push you around.
I've got a man in London who buys all my clothes. He sends over a selection of things at the beginning of each season. Spring and fall.
I've never seen such beautiful shirts before.
Unbelievable.
At that moment, I knew, surely and clearly, that I was witnessing perfection.
You are a fine picture. Only need 3 more years before I can think like a fish. I'm already thinking like a dead stonefly. Picture. Mother's pictures. Hurry up.
1, 2.
My brother stood before us, not on a bank of the big Blackfoot River, but suspended above the earth, free from all its laws, like a work of art.
3.
And I knew just as surely and just as clearly that life is not a work of art, and that the moment could not last.
We're here tonight with Andy Hunter, the chef de cuisine at the Foundation Room here in the House of Blues, New Orleans. Thank you so much for letting us come in and disrupt your thing here.
No disruption at all. It's our pleasure to have you.
Manizer, so excited to be here.
Oh, we're glad to have you.
How long have you been the chef here?
I think it's about 4 months now.
And are you used to cooking in such an intimate environment, or is this your first experience with such a small area?
The restaurant that I came from was a little bit bigger than this. Did more people, but it was a pretty intimate environment.
Do you like that, cooking for small groups?
Absolutely. It's a lot more fun when you get to pay attention to each plate. You know, really devote your attention to exactly what you're doing right there. You know, you're not. I mean, it's still a kitchen. It's still a little hectic. You still get a little frazzled, but to really pay attention to each individual plate. Very nice.
I imagine it shows in the final product as well.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I like to think so.
I've eaten up here many times, and the food's always been phenomenal. The House of Blues Foundation Room has a standard of excellence in everything, the whole experience of drinking and lounging and visiting, and especially dining. What would you say is your goal for your tenure here as the chef?
I think just to continue that and to have the menu reflect more of my personal tastes in food. I grew up in the South, and I really like to cook Southern style food, and it's fun to kind of put that twist on it, give it more of a little bit of a Southern flair here.
Letting people know that Southern food can be more than strictly smothered pork chops and red beans and rice.
Right, no, that's
it can have
great,
that flair.
Yeah, I just garnish it with a piece of Chervil at the end.
Oh, there you go.
Yum yum.
All set. And many chefs have a signature style. You know, some like stacking or whatever. Do you have a signature move that you can say put your plate aside from others?
Not that I can really think of. You know, I like everything really tight in the center of the plate. That's not it's not necessarily stacking or layering, but the tighter the center of the plate, the better.
You don't like things scattered all over.
Right. It's got to be very neat.
I don't blame you. It gives you a better idea of what you got going on there. Is there anything here at the house and here in the Foundation Room that you think is really very different from what you might see other places? Do you think your Southern flair comes out in certain dishes?
I really like the pork dish that we have right now. It's grilled pork tenderloin with a molasses glaze, crook neck squash risotto, and a little bit of pickled red cabbage. It's really bright and vibrant on the plate. And, I love the combination of pork and molasses. That's actually something my mother used to cook for me when I was a kid. She'd make a little marinade with molasses for pork chops and stuff. So.
Was your mom a big cook?
Yeah, she had to be. I'm one of 5, so she had to be.
Yeah, you have to do a lot of cooking when you're cooking for 5.
Yeah.
And did you have specific comfort foods? Like, are there any foods you especially remember about being at home?
You know, I mean, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, all the good stuff. You know, the things that I'm going home for Thanksgiving in a few weeks, and it's always, Mom occasionally will try and come up with a new dish, and we tend to frown on that. We want the standard, the same things that we've had, for the past 20-something years.
You're not big on change on the home front of the cuisine.
Well,
that's why you're a chef.
She can do that on Friday, but on Thursday for Thanksgiving, we want the mashed potatoes and the gravy.
She has to stick with the traditional stuff. You guys are a hard group then.
Well, I wouldn't say so. I mean,
Does she get intimidated that you're a big chef? No.
She's always, she's always been the person who inspired me to cook. And, there's no competition in my mind. You know, I can cook foie gras and she may not be able to, but you know, her meatloaf will. I can't even attempt. I don't even try.
So she still got the upper hand.
Yeah.
Those things.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, one of my brothers, he says, you know, he always tells me, you know, you may be able to cook all these fancy dishes and work in a restaurant, but he said, you'll never be able to touch my chili or my grilled cheese. So, he says he makes the best grilled cheese.
A man who brags on his grilled cheese. That's a good guy to have around when you're feeling sick, and you know.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that chili thing? We won't necessarily show him the footage.
You know, I mean, my mom gets the bow of respect. I wouldn't even attempt it, but I'm ready for my brother.
Bring him on.
Yeah.
Bring on that chili challenge. Here we are with the Hunter
We'll
chili
order grilled cheese tonight, Andy. Maybe not.
Well, I mean, if you, I promise it'll be better than my brother's.
Amen.
We'll show him a thing or two. Well, thanks so much. We
Well, it's
really
our pleasure.
appreciate you letting us come in.
Yeah.
And we're very excited to eat. Is there anything on the menu in particular this evening that you would?
I think you'll love it all.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable.
We'll have it all.
Yeah.
There you go.
Have it all.
Can we have all?
Yeah. I guess one of my things that I would recommend would be we have a warm salad of spinach and frisee. It's got a sweet tea vinaigrette and praline bacon, and it's garnished with.
Vinaigrette?
Yeah.
Wow. Now that is a very southern thing.
Yeah.
Sweet tea. You don't
Yeah,
hear
you
that
wouldn't even know what that
I
is.
grew up in Chicago and no one says sweet tea up there. I can tell you that. Thanks again.
No,
Thanks so much.
no problem. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank
Or
you.
actually, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks for being had
Right.
or something. Either way works for Manna. It's pretty easy that way. Let's go on in and I know I probably shouldn't say this. Get some grub, but you know, we can. We're in this house. It's fair.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Andy.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're going to go party of Manizer. We have a table for two ready for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
What's wrong with He's kind of disappointed that Johnny Fish just decided he doesn't want to do the support thing. What he doesn't want to
French baguettes topped with Dijon mustard and a cricket. Oh, thank you so much. Quite welcome. Here we have a warm salad of spinach and frisee topped with a sweet tea vinaigrette, praline bacon, and a deviled egg. Would you care for some crushed pepper?
I would, thank you very much.
Just tell me what.
I'm a peppery kind of gal. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Travis. This is so good. Sweet tea vinaigrette, who'd have thought? And in here is praline bacon. All the goodness of bacon and all the goodness of sweetness, too. You get it all. You can't have any.
What about the cameraman?
Your entree this evening is a pork tenderloin with a butternut squash risotto.
I love risotto. Thank you.
Love that risotto.
And the chef's recommendation as well. Yum. So, chef did not lie. He likes to see things in the center of the plate. Notice.
I've already spread them out.
Notice no fancy, you know, a lot of chefs like to decorate the sides of the plate. This presentation just really has nice, clean lines. No frou-frou about it. Stick with the important part.
This is dedicated to my good friend Jake Blues, who, in a sense, helped founded the House Blues Foundation Room. This is a foie gras chicken skin sandwich. That'll be fine. Ow.
4 fried chicken skin sandwiches and a Coke.
4 fried chicken squid and foie gras sandwiches and a Coke.
There's
Too
the
bad
chicken.
Jake's not here today. He is now.
The chicken from when
Come last.
So this is that pork tenderloin with this risotto and this blackstrap molasses reduction here. And it's really, really good. I would love to share it with you, but then I might have to kill you. So in order to preserve your life, I'm going to eat it all and save you the pain and suffering. Taking no prisoners on the pork. If it isn't considered really gauche, to take some of that beautiful bread there
Or there's some
and
inside
smear
chicken.
it all around on this molasses, I would.
For dessert tonight, a root beer fancier, layers of yellow cake with a buttercream frosting and a root beer syrup, topped with a vanilla gelato. And for you, Zoe, this is our fallen chocolate cake. It's personally baked to order for you. It oozes of semi-sweet and dark chocolate on mascarpone whipped cream, mocha gelato. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Root beer fancy.
Financier.
This is my fiance. His name is Root Beer. Excellent. I do.
I'm assuming they call it fallen chocolate cake because the inside falls right out of the cake because it's so warm and gooey and oozy that there it is. You can see it pooling there in the melted gelato.
Excuse me, I have to eat as fast as possible just to finish my dessert.
Getting a little crowded in there, Jill.
Speed.
What fools do not see! To believe that this is some simple nerve impulse activation. Ha! What I have found is so astonishing a power placed within my own grasp that I have hesitated this long a time concerning the manner in which I employ it. Yet, I hesitated this long of a time concerning where and the possibilities of what I could be the capacity of bestowing animation on something with a frame of reception of it with all its intricacies and fibers and muscles and veins still remained a work of inconceivable difficulty and labor. But tonight at dinner, the idea came to me in the simplicity of a lobster's carapace. I doubted whether at first I should attempt the creation of a being like myself or one of simpler organization, but the lobster permitted me an imagination, and success is now eminent. The materials at present appear adequate for this arduous undertaking, and now on this dreary night of October, I will behold the accomplishments of my toils! www.toilandtrouble.com burn and log on bubble. Filet and 2 1/2 pound lobster tail, rechargeable titanium Duracell. Powered by this computer, the fluids will bake and boil. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth, boil and bubble. Make the gruel thick and slab. Put in a t-shirt depicting a black lab. Lobster claws and bright orange roe come back to life, and even worse than foe. www.toilandtrouble.com burn and log on bubble. Oh, well done. I command your gains, and now everyone shall share in awesome pain. And now about the computer screen sing like Elvis, the Beatles, and Britney in a ring, enchanting all that I've put in. By the prickling of my thumbs, carpal tunnel makes my hands numb, and something wicked this way comes.
There's a lot more to Stephen King than just scary stories. Stephen King is from down East Maine and lives in a Victorian mansion. It's surrounded by a wrought iron fence with spooky bats and spiders intertwined. Stephen King himself is an imposing figure. He's tall, 6'4", has piercing blue eyes and pitch black hair. Stephen King is also a musician, and I had the pleasure of seeing Stephen King play guitar and sing Johnny Be Good with Johnny Cash at the Bangor State Fair. That was a duo. That was a double bill.
The Man in Black and the Man in Black.
It was so scary. And Stephen King is also a devoted husband. In fact, he married his college sweetheart, so he's romantic. So don't just be scared by Stephen King, even though he is the undisputed king of horror.
It's true. It is Stephen King's ability to make a girl squirm in her seat that has made him a household name. He has an ability to find that very thing, whatever that very thing is, that will absolutely scare you to death. He wrote in one of his books that we all have a filter between our conscious and our subconscious. And we have different size holes in the filter, and certain things fall out and other things get stuck. And it's the things that get stuck that you have to really work on. And he really is able to find the thing that will make you more afraid than anything else. The reading that we're going to give you is from his book, It. Those of you who are not familiar with It, it's about a clown who terrorizes children in a small town.
Clowns are scary.
For a lot of people, it's an archetypal fear, whether it's that they're changelings or ship changers or whatever it is.
Doppelgangers or something.
People really are afraid of clowns. And
I am.
This particular book is great because it gets at those fears from when we're children. Those childhood fears. You are never as afraid in your whole life, it seems, as you can be when you're a kid, because you haven't learned at that point that these things may not exist, although we believe they do.
Steve
and so does
brings out
Steve.
the horrors of adult life too.
Well, and he's darn good at it.
And we all know there's scary things as grown-ups
like taxes and
Besides clowns.
jobs and all
Right.
of that stuff. But this particular book, he's looking at those fundamental fears of childhood.
It.
And our good friend Toy is going to read for us from Stephen King's It. So sit back and enjoy and be scared.
You're scared of this awesome man, Stephen King.
Now here he was, chasing his boat down the left side of Witcham Street. He was running fast, but the water was running faster, and his boat was pulling ahead. He heard a deepening roar and saw that 50 yards further down the hill, the water in the gutter was cascading into a storm drain that was still open. It was a long, dark, semicircle cut into the curving, and as Georgie watched, a stripped branch, its bark as dark and glistening as sealskin, shot into the storm drain's maw. It hung up there for a moment, and then slipped down inside. That was where his boat was headed. "Oh, shit in Chinola!" he yelled, in dismay. He put on speed, and for a moment he thought he would catch the boat. Then one of his feet slipped, and he went sprawling, skidding one knee and crying out in pain. From this new pavement-level perspective, he watched his boat swing round twice, momentarily caught in another whirlpool, and then disappear. "Shit in Chinola!" he yelled again, and slammed his fist down on the pavement. That hurt too. He began to cry a little. What a stupid way to lose the boat. He got up and walked over to the storm drain. He dropped his knees and peered in. The hollow sound and fell into the darkness. It was a spooky sound. It reminded me of the sound was jerked out of him if it was on a string, and he recoiled. There were yellow eyes in there, the sort of eyes that we always imagined but never actually seen down in the basement. It's an animal, he thought, incoherently. That's it. Some animal, maybe a house cat that got stuck down in there. Still, he was ready to run, would run in a second or two, when his mental switchboard had dealt with the shock those two shiny yellow eyes had given him. He felt the rough surface of the macadam under his fingers, and a thin sheet of cold water flowing around him. He saw himself getting up and backing away, and that was when a voice, perfectly reasonable, rather pleasant voice, spoke to him from inside the storm drain. "Hi, Georgie," it said. George blinked and looked again. He could barely credit what he saw. It was like something from a made-up story or a movie where you know the animals will walk and dance. If he had been 10 years older, he would have believed that he was seeing. But he was not 16, he was 6. There was a clown in the storm drain. The light in there was far from good, but it was good enough so that George Denbrough was sure of what he was seeing. It was a clown, like in the circus or on TV. In fact, he looked like a cross between Bozo and Clarabelle, who talked the honking or was it her? George was never really sure of the gender. His horn on Howdy Doody Saturday mornings. Buffalo Bob was just about the only one who could understand Clarabelle, and that always cracked George up. The face of the clown in the storm drain was white. There were funny tufts of red hair on either side of his bald head, and there was a big clown smile painted over his mouth. If George had been inhabiting a later year, he would have surely thought of Ronald McDonald before Bozo or Clarabelle. The clown held a bunch of balloons, all colors, like gorgeous ripe fruit in one hand. In the other, he held Georgie's newspaper boat. "Want your boat, Georgie?" The clown smiled. George smiled back. He couldn't help it. It was one of those kind of smiles that you just had to answer. "I sure do," he said. The clown laughed. "I sure do." "That's good. That's very good. And how about a balloon?" "Well, sure." He reached forward and then drew his hand reluctantly back. "I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers. My dad said so." "Very wise of your dad," the clown in the storm drain said, smiling. "How?" Georgie wondered. could I bear thought his eyes were yellow. They were bright and dancing blue, the color of his mom's eyes, and Bill's. Very wise indeed, therefore I will introduce myself. I, Georgie, am Mr. Bob Gray, also known as Pennywise, the dancing clown. Pennywise, meet George Denbrough. George, meet Pennywise. And now we know each other. I'm not a stranger to you, and you're not a stranger to me. Correct? George giggled. I guess so. He reached forward again and drew his hand back again. How did you get down here? The storm drain blew me away, Pennywise dancing clown said. It blew the whole circus away. Can you smell the circus, Georgie? George leaned forward. Suddenly he could smell peanuts. Hot roasted peanuts and vinegar, the white kind you put on your french fries through a hole in the cap. He could smell cotton candy and frying doughboys and the faint but thunderous odor of wild animal shit. He could smell the cheery aroma of midway sawdust, and yet under all the smell was flood and decaying leaves and dark storm-drained shadows. The smell was wet and rotten, the cellar smell. But the other smells were stronger. You bet I can smell it, he said. Want your boat, Georgie? Pennywise asked. I only repeat myself because you really do not seem that eager. He held it up, smiling. It was wearing a baggy silk suit with great big orange buttons, a bright tie, electric blue, flopped down his front, and on his hands were big white gloves, like the kind Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck always wore. Yes, sure, Georgie said, looking into the storm drain. And a balloon? I've got red and green and yellow and blue. Do they float? Float? The clown grin widened. Oh yes, indeed they do. They float. And there's cotton candy and... George reached. The clown seized his arm, and Georgie saw the clown's face change. What he saw then was terrible enough to make the worst images of the thing in the cellar look like sweet dreams. What he saw destroyed his sanity in one clawing stroke. They float! The thing in the drain crooned in clotted, chuckling voice. It held George's arm in its thick and wormy grip, and it pulled Georgie toward the terrible darkness, where the water rushed and roared and bellowed, and it bore its cargo of storm debris toward the sea. George craned his neck away from the final blackness and began to scream into the rain, to scream mindlessly into the whole autumn sky which curved above Derry on that day in the fall of 1957. His screams were shrill and piercing, and all up and down Witcham Street people came to the windows and bolted out underneath their porches. They float, they growled. They float, Georgie. And when you're down here with me, you'll float too. George's shoulders socked against the cement of the curb, and Dave Gardner, who stayed home from the job of the showboat that day because of the flood, saw only a small boy in yellow rain slicker, a small boy who was screaming and writhing in the gutter with muddy water surfacing over his face and making his scream sound bubbly. Everything down here floats, that chuckling, rotten voice whispered. And suddenly there was a ripping noise and flaring sheet of agony, and George Denbrough knew no more. Dave Gardner was the first to get there, and although he arrived only 45 seconds after the first scream, George Denbrough was already dead. Gardner grabbed him by the back of the slicker, pulled him into the street, and began screaming himself as George's body returned over in his hands. The left side of George's slicker was now bright red. Blood flowed into the storm drain from the tattered hole where the left arm had been. A knob of bone, horribly bright, peeked through the torn cloth. The boy's eyes stared up into the white sky, and as Dave staggered away toward the others, already running pell-mell down the street, they began to fill up the rain. Fill up the rain, this big black rain.
Today on Manizer is the one time you're going to hear me call a man a monster. Of course, I mean the creature from the movie Frankenstein. I have a crush on the creature. He is a monster, but he is misunderstood. The creature really only had two friends, the blind man and the little girl. Anyone who's familiar with the little girl scene knows that the creature was all about love. He's playing with a little flower. The little girl's playing with the flower. Love me not. Ah! He looks at the flower. He looks at the little girl. In his abnormal brain, they're the same. They're love. Ah! He picks up the little girl. Rah! Throws her in the water and kills her. Kills her from love. He didn't mean it out of malice. The creature, he's tall, green, and handsome. He's sensitive. He's communicative. He's got all the things that a woman looks for in a man. Okay, he's a monster. Ah! But that means I love you.
Who are you? I'm Maria. Will you play with me? Would you like one of my flowers? You have those, and I'll have these. I can make a boat. See how mine floats? No, you're hurting me! No!
I love Dracula because he was a monster of refinement and elegance. He would fly into your town, cloaked in mystery, with no clue as to where he came from or what he was doing there. He would hypnotize you with his eyes and his sexy Hungarian voice. It was his taste for the finer things in life, and in fact, the very essence of life, that made him the monster that he was. He sought blood. And did he get it from you by hacking you to bits or ripping your guts out? No, he would come and nibble on your neck. Sure, with a little pain, but my mother always told me that you had to suffer to be beautiful. Oh, if only every man we knew with a sexy Hungarian voice would nibble on our necks a little, how happy Manizer would be. It is his image as a romantic icon that has made Dracula such an enduring figure. So favored, in fact, that he has spawned dozens of movies and books about him or imitating him. Things like Bram Stoker's Dracula, which my husband happened to have a guest role in. And let us not forget the vampire Lestat. If there was a sexier vampire in Tom Cruise since Dracula himself, I can't even tell you. But this particular business that we're going to watch, this clip is from the movie Ed Wood, where we get to see Dracula in his glory and what made him the monster that he was. So sit back
be drained and enjoy. Ed Wood and Dracula. Perfect.
Don't want the classic horror films anymore. Today it's all giant bugs. Giant spiders, giant grasshoppers. Who would believe such nonsense?
The old ones were much spookier. They had castles, full moons.
They were mythic. They had a poetry to them.
Yes.
And you know what else? The women. The women prefer the traditional monsters.
The women?
Huh. The pure horror, it both repels and attracts them. Because in their collective unconsciousness, they have the agony of childbirth. The blood. The blood is horror.
You know, I never thought of that.
Take my word for it. If you want to make out with the young lady, take her to see Dracula.
Well, baby, that's all right. But cheeky man's eyes on that I drink banana. Beer.
So who would you rather, Dracula or Frankenstein?
I would say Dracula. Frankenstein's a bit of a scary fella. Dracula has class. He knows how to pick 'em.
Dracula. Definitely Dracula.
Any particular reasons why?
I think he has really great hair, much better than Frankenstein. And he seems a lot smoother with the ladies.
Who would you rather, Dracula or Frankenstein?
Sadly, I think I would go with Dracula. I think he seems more exciting and domineering. Frankenstein, I don't know. I've seen Young Frankenstein too many times to dig him too much.
Well, Frankenstein was kind of a good guy. I'd choose to live a little dangerously and get the blood hickey, for Dracula. So I'm choosing Dracula.
Blood hickey style.
Yeah.
How about you, sir? Who would you rather?
I always choose Bela Lugosi, so I gotta go with Dracula. He's creepy, he's sexy, he's bloody. I don't like the stuff in the head. Dracula can get women and suck on blood. He's a beautiful man. I like Dracula.
I'd have to say Frankenstein. We're both green.
I would rather be Dracula, because Dracula got the women. Frankenstein didn't have luck with the women. I mean, first of all, he was attracted to, well, all he could pick up was a little girl, right?
Pick her up and throw her in the water, exactly.
Yeah, no, and then, Dracula.
Well, to have dinner with, Dracula, definitely. He's lived a lot of years, and I think he might have some insight into the way the world is today. Sex, Frankenstein.
The big brutish type, huh? So who would you rather, Dracula or Frankenstein?
I would rather Frankenstein.
Any particular reason?
I think that he's more interesting and he's all put together, and I'd like to find out how he's all put together. Yeah, he's a lot hotter than Dracula.
Alright.
I like Frankenstein more than Dracula. Dracula's always too blatantly sexual, while Frankenstein is more subtly tragic.
Well, although Frankenstein is tall, green, and handsome, not much of a conversationalist, Dracula, he's got style. So I'm gonna have to go with Dracula because he's just a hottie. And the whole neck thing is very sexy. So yeah, I'd have to go with Dracula.
Who would you rather, Dracula or Frankenstein?
The monster or the professor?
Oh, that's a good question. Either or.
That's a good point. Well, Dracula, if I wanted to sort of do the town, if I wanted to see the sights, he's a classier guy. Frankenstein, if I just really want to get nasty, funky, he's kind of got the guy thing going on. But Dracula knows more chicks. And Frankenstein's got the big, gullible, stupid thing. And if he's my tag team partner, well, then I can play off that pretty easily. So really, it's up in the air.
You swing both ways.
Swing both ways.
In the monster arena.
Yeah, it depends on where we are. It really is. If I'm in Miami, I'm with Dracula. If I'm out in Nebraska, I'm with Frankenstein. I don't know. It just depends on geographic. It's who the ladies are,
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Carl Castle. U.S. warplanes have bombed Taliban frontline positions north of the capital, Kabul. From Islamabad, Pakistan, NPR's Eric Leiter reports.
Witnesses report seeing U.S. planes flying over the Panjshir Valley before bombing the Taliban frontline positions north of Kabul. This could signal a start to a new phase in the war.
What was that? Honey, something crawled under your chair.
Oh, what? What did you say?
Wait, I can see its claw. It's a lobster. There's a lobster crawling under your chair.
How in the world did a lobster crawl all the way into this room from the kitchen? Besides, I only bought 6 lobsters. We already cooked and ate all of them.
Ouch! Oh my God, Barbara! They're attacking me!
Oh, for the love of God!
The party's going real nice. I'll stick my hand to a bucket of ice, pull it out, and I got frostbite. Break my thumb off.
Welcome to Manizer. Today we're here with some men experts to discuss People Magazine's Sexiest Men Alive issue. And I have here to my right our friend Mia. Thanks for coming on, Mia. Mia is a man expert who gets to see a lot of people coming and going and knows the difference between Prada and Manolo. So she knows sexy versus wannabe. And over here to my left is our friend Andrew. And Andrew runs a talent agency here in town, Metro Talent. So he knows sexy. And he definitely knows what makes the cut and what doesn't. Thanks for coming on the show, you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thank
you. And we're all very excited here at Manizer about this big issue, People Magazine. They do it every year, the Sexiest Men Alive, and we'll cut straight to the chase.
Right away.
Right away to their number one pick, Sexiest Man Alive, Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. I think this is a great choice, personally. I think Johnny Depp is an incredibly sexy man for a lot of reasons. Andrew, what do you think?
I think he's sexy. I like the different characters that he could play, so that's one of the good things. So I like his physique, really nice physique, not too big, not too small, probably just right.
Just right, like
just
a little
right.
Goldilocks with dark hair.
Just right, just right. I mean, who could really say anything bad about Johnny?
I don't know.
I don't either. What about you, Mia? What do you think?
I think in all of his roles, I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean, dirty teeth, dirty hair, hasn't seen a bath in days, still
sexy.
Take home.
Take him
Once
home.
upon a time in Mexico, no eyeballs, blind, blood cleaned down his face. Take him home.
Take him home. Doesn't matter.
Take him home.
Take him home. Bathe him if you have to.
Scissor
or not.
hands. He
Or
can't
not.
I don't mind. Come on home. We'll make a shrub. Let's integrate a tree or something. Do my hair.
We'll do a little topiary out in the courtyard. It
Don't
doesn't
forget
matter.
Jack the Ripper.
Oh, yeah. From Hell.
From Hell.
That is one of my favorite holiday movies, From Hell.
Yeah.
From Hell.
From Hell.
When I was young and Johnny Depp first came on the scene, I was sort of put off by his name. It sounded like a hair product, Depp. And I was like, Johnny Depp, what's with this guy? And I didn't pay any attention. And I didn't watch that Jump Street or any of that. And then Crybaby came out. And somehow I was lucky enough to watch Crybaby. And from then on, his name could have been Mickey Mouse. And I'd been like, he's sexy.
It wouldn't matter.
That was it. Johnny Depp, I knew at that point. Was on his way.
Crybaby was the big film for me, too, of learning who Johnny Depp was. I had never seen any of his Jump Street or any of that. I remember seeing him in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
But, very, very
right,
briefly.
he was laying in the bed on the phone. That was about it.
Dead. Exactly.
Dead and bloody.
Even sex. Dead is sexy. But the Crybaby role, I thought that he did. It was a perfect spoof. It was just really a great spoof. And
tattoo.
Yeah,
Still sexy.
I know.
Going back to Nightmare on Elm Street, when he was laying on the bed, I do remember him wearing his little Giddy Girl shorts when he was on the phone. I've recently seen the movie, and I'm like, oh wow, there's Johnny Depp. I had no clue. I've seen.
He had a
this
little
movie.
puffy hair. He was a kid.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh wait, he's wearing them little hot Giddy Girl shorts. I'm like, pause, stop, pause, rewind.
Classic manizing.
So,
Family member.
See, you know all about that director's cut. That's how we like to do it too.
Totally.
But I think he's got a lot going for him. This recent role, Pirates of the Caribbean, of course,
put him on the map.
Just plummeted.
Gave him a star.
He's
just
Disney now.
Back.
He's back. Well, if he was ever really gone, that's the thing. Just because you're not playing in these in these big commercial films, Hollywood seems to think somehow,
Sweeping music and epic scenery is the only way you're making a good film. We know otherwise, of course.
We've been
Of course,
taught.
he has this incredible talent where
He does have incredible talent.
he does so many, films, independent films, as well as blockbusters. He can do anything.
And how about his? Isn't he the one who has friends with Marlon Brando, and he's friends with all these
Vincent Price,
all these really awesome, men in this industry are his friend. Now, how
Who could blame
if
him?
you could pick and choose your friends, you'd obviously pick and choose Marlon Brando. I'd be like, you want to come over? We'll have a pizza. I'd call
six.
Order 6. We get 2 for $1 Tuesdays. Come on, Marlon. Right.
Well, he definitely has a tremendous talent And I think it's shown more and more with every role. Here he was playing this big commercial role, and everything that you've read, and believe me, I've read plenty about Pirates of the Caribbean over the summer and in the ensuing months, talks about how he came onto the set completely in character. He knew what he was doing from the minute he got there. But from the purely physical level, because let's not forget that in addition to being a great talent, the man is drop dead gorgeous. Look at this face.
And
He's
has
choked
style.
with cheekbones. He has incredible style.
Right. He wears,
and it's all his own. That's the thing. He's not following
No offense,
some big
Prada.
Right. We don't want to diss the tried and true fashion.
No, we're all about
I'll
design.
give it to him. Pirates of the Caribbean. Eyeliner on, looks like he's been out for a week. Still beautiful.
Really?
Still
Beautiful.
take home.
He
These
left some of those gold
cheekbones.
teeth on. The cheekbones.
The cheekbones.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
his Cherokee.
Right, he's part
his
in-
Cherokee heritage, I'm sure. But these cheekbones look like you could, slice the film with them. They're beautiful. His facial structure, he has that sort of
Really, those
He's
wayfish
definitely
look.
walking a room. Look right at him, and you don't need to look at anyone else.
I would be
You know?
afraid that if he walked in a room,
If he walked in
I
a room.
would just.
Oh my God, I gotta chill, and I'm
Maybe
not
he's
exaggerating.
outside.
Come on.
Hey, wait, is he through the window?
As soon as I see back there in our courtyard.
Is it Johnny Depp? Please, God,
Come on
please,
in.
please. Well, then I guess it's safe to assume that we don't really have a problem with him not only being on the list, but
Sexiest man alive.
also sexiest man.
People want to see new faces in Johnny. I mean,
He's a classic.
Yeah, I mean, he's
And
on
he's a-
and
And he's
Popularity.
he's 40.
and
not
has
forget.
hair.
He has beautiful.
Is he
Oh,
40?
the hair.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Well, and he moved to France, and he got married and had children. He married a model, Paradis, and he talks about how all the movies, all the hype, this or that, he's often tried to escape it. And part of moving to France, I think, was that, just to try and live the normal life, because just because you're an actor and you're famous and you're the most sexy man in the world doesn't mean you're not a normal person and you want to live your daily life. And he often, in interviews, doesn't talk about just the fact that he's not Hollywood. He talks about that he loves his family, that his children are the whole reason. He talks about how he is at home watching the, Lilo and Stitch 900 times, any Disney movie with the kids. And it's for real. He's not just saying that to be on Entertainment Tonight and sound like he's got integrity.
Mr. Dad,
I care
right.
about my family. He's going to get on TV and hold his
Or
wife's
I
hand
care
or
about
something.
Disney,
He
since Disney's
really
putting out
does.
Parts of the Caribbean. You
Right,
know?
right.
Like, oh, I love the House of.
You can say it. Right.
I think that is very attractive about Johnny Depp, is that at a time when so many movie stars are just strictly worried about their careers and
The next big
it's the
film.
next big film, that he is
It's
really
his
that
job.
involved with his family, and it's not a put on. And you really get the impression that although, of course, being a movie star is his job, that it takes a real back seat to his family obligations and
Well,
his
and all this time and all this film, he's had time to differentiate his work and his home life, and
Right.
make it work, because that's the hardest thing, is making it work.
Any
Making any
job.
relationship with any job work, especially in Hollywood, when, it becomes who you are, it becomes your lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle.
Sure.
I'm sure he has a very nice lifestyle. Johnny
Well,
Depp
he
is.
gets up and smokes cigarettes and has a bagel or a baguette. And
We have Brad Pitt as
Number
the
one.
number one sexiest man, and he's right up there on my list as well. Number two,
Newcomer.
right? Newcomer, Ashton Kutcher. I think we know Jill's opinion of this. Ashton Kutcher.
Dude.
George Clooney. We have Lenny Kravitz.
Yum, Lenny.
Yum, yum. Justin Timberlake.
No comments.
Comments? We'll get to comments. Hugh Grant. And Russell Crowe.
Just gay enough.
And
Hugh
we have
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
That's a big one.
He
It's a big one.
should have,
Huge
like,
Jackman.
number
Full page.
three.
Huge Jackman.
Let's hope so.
We certainly hope so, right? Denzel.
Denzel.
And Colin Farrell. Those are People Magazine's number 10 here. And so if it couldn't be Johnny Depp,
I would say Lenny Kravitz.
Lenny Kravitz is your
Definitely.
choice for sexiest man.
Sexiest man, definitely. Out of the top 10 from the list that we have now, Lenny Kravitz. He has style. He's been around for a while. I mean, look at Lenny.
One thing about Lenny Kravitz is
he is so cool.
He's not someone who is his sexiness doesn't come off in just being distinguished or being he's sexy.
Yeah.
Like he invokes sex.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like I don't look at him and think like you look at George Clooney and he's got the classic sort of handsome Rock Hudson look, Cary Grant that you want to have sex with, of course, but maybe you don't think, but Lenny Kravitz, sexy.
George Clooney, I would think, daddy.
Yeah.
Well, for some people, that's
someone else.
and that's very sexy, right?
Your dad is sexy.
I like daddy.
Lenny Kravitz, just all around sexy. Them lips, look at this picture.
And thank goodness he might be out in the courtyard because
he lives
right down the street.
This is right. Two houses down. He's on Dauphine.
2 houses down from me on Dauphine Street. So if you see him outside
We see him
on the phone,
jumping in and out of the car.
You might see him and Mia, the men expert, strolling along.
Or not.
Lenny, if you're here, if you're in New Orleans watching this, we'd love to have you on Manizer. Come
Of
on
course.
down. We're all for it.
Yeah,
Well, I agree. I think that he's definitely got a certain sex appeal. It's not about classic, handsome, good looks. It's not about,
It's
any
a
of that.
cool aura too. It's just
Sure.
he looks cool.
He does look cool.
And he looks sexy. And
He definitely. I mean, that's a
who
he
doesn't
has
want to look or
style.
hang out with that? You know.
I don't know.
Come on by, like we said. Come in
And
from
he's
outside.
another one who I
You
think
know.
so too.
Well, Mia, who on this list that's not Johnny Depp would you make the number one?
Let's
if it
see.
couldn't be
I
Johnny
think
Depp?
Hugh Jackman really.
Where do we have
between
him here?
style, between looks, between what a sweet face.
That really
I mean,
is.
really. You know, cleaned up or a little gruff. Definitely a little gruff is always sexier on him. But Wolverine, very gruffy, very hairy.
Come scratch my eyes out.
We love you anyway.
Come
Scars, that's fine,
Right.
as long as they're in the right places.
Well, I had to be told by Mia who this guy was because I didn't really know he was Wolverine. I'm not as up on all that. But luckily, being a Manizer, you don't have to know who they are to be able to look at them and manize them.
Right.
And he does have a lot of sexiness going for him. I like the scruffy look too. I always have. I have it bad for that Sam Elliott guy, with the deep voice and the motorcycle looks and all that scruffy. So I always am a big fan
But I mean,
of that.
even gruffy, he still looks well kept. That's the most important thing. You can do messy and not get away with it, or you can.
Sure, you just
and
have
do.
poor hygiene or something.
Right.
Versus it's
With
planned.
when it's Johnny Depp, it's okay. But other
Right.
people, you gotta pay attention.
Some of the men on these lists can have all the bad hygiene
Right,
they
I
want.
don't care
We
if you
don't
wear the
care.
same shirt all week. Just take it off.
Being able to smell you just lets
Leave
me
it
know
off.
that you're on your way. It's fine.
Right.
So what do you think about him, Andrew? What do you think about Hugh Jackman?
I've always liked him from the first time I seen him in X-Men. I was like, ooh, jumping out of my seat. I'm like, he's so cute. And then X-Men 2 came out, and you could tell he's been working out because he was wearing a wife beater, one of those white tank top shirts.
Beat
and-
me.
Exactly. And his
I'll beat you
muscles
back.
were all bulging out, and I'm like, also nice to look at. Eye
But
candy.
it's not an over.
No,
thing,
it's
you know?
nice eye
Not like
candy.
a governor of California or something.
And again, just gay enough.
Just
That's important.
Just gay
Just
enough.
gay
a
enough.
lot of that style.
Right.
When a man has all that
Exactly.
style, they're just gay enough, I guess.
How about you, Jill?
Well, I don't know if you noticed my earlier.
I noticed that.
I would have to go with Ashton Kutcher from the list to be whatever his name is. I don't know.
Ashton Kutcher.
It's gonna be your last name, Jill.
What is his name?
Miss
Ashton
Kutcher. What do you think about your husband?
I don't even know his name, but it doesn't matter. When Dude, Where's My Car came out,
That was so funny.
that was my favorite movie of that year. And I really like a sense of humor. I am really attracted to a man that makes me laugh. And he is very funny.
He's
And
goofy. He's really goofy and
he's
silly.
got
and
that.
you could tell,
I
like,
mean,
if
he's
you're around
young,
him.
of course, so maybe some of that, right? He's 20. But
25.
20,
20, 25,
21,
85.
18.
When you're dating someone almost twice your age, though, it kind of evens out, maybe.
Let's discuss that for a moment.
And is this a coincidence or is this a phenomenon? 3 of these men on the top 10 list, which is a pretty high percentage, are dating older women.
Ashton,
Lenny, and Justin.
And Justin Timberlake.
Who's Justin going out with?
Cameron Diaz.
Still? Oh, Lord, sister girl.
Even if you don't particularly care for him, what do we think about this dating older women stuff? What do we think that has to say
Why
about it?
not? I mean, if you could do it, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's not hurting anyone.
Sure.
I mean, young women have been dating older men forever.
Look at Anna Nicole.
We're way ahead. We're way ahead.
Oh, wow.
Anna Nicole's going out.
Do I have to look at Anna
She's
Nicole?
not on the top section of anything, though.
Well,
And that was
train wreck, top train wreck.
I want to kind of jump ahead because I'll forget, but since we're talking about the age thing, the person that's not on this list that I really think should be on this list, and he could have been one of the prototypes, like the old guy, I guess, is of course Paul Newman.
Oh,
Paul Newman
please.
He's got everything that makes a man sexy. He's got looks. He's got integrity. He's
Talent.
The loving husband. I mean, it's
Integrity,
talent
integrity.
and just 800 years old, dead in the grave. Come on over.
Come
Let's
on
go.
over. Come on in.
Let's get married.
You met your wife here in New Orleans. You sleep in a big
Salad dressing.
that you got in a
salad
antique
dressing,
store.
Salad dressing.
croutons. Oh my gosh!
tickets to
Did you ever have
Vegas.
Don't shiver out there in the cold, Paul.
Fig Newmans. Fig Newmans. Oh my gosh! And his pepper pretzels, they're good.
All that stuff. You can come over and cook at my house anytime, baby.
We're gonna
I
have a
know.
whole episode about Paul Newman, but again, there's as a younger woman dating an older man, that's great. I would date Ashton Kutcher. He's younger than me.
If you knew his last name.
It doesn't matter. We can get married. I won't even know my own last name then.
Exactly.
I'm Jill Kushner.
So, Andrew, your pick off the list.
What
Went through me.
if-
Zoe. Off the list?
If there's someone who did not make the list that you would have put on the list.
I would have to say LL Cool J.
Oh, and he did make the
Ladies love Cool James.
He did make the issue. He just sadly didn't make the list.
The top 10 list.
But there he is.
What about him?
Speechless. I seen him in concert once. I thought I was gonna fall off the balcony. The way I was screaming, it was ridiculous.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
all I was.
Jazz Fest, he was like a burlesque strip show. He came out and tore his shirt off and poured water like a video right on his head, and it just ran down. And he went like that.
Oh my God! At the concert,
blowing up. I know.
at the concert at House of Blues,
It was like a sex show.
he picked out random women to come on stage,
He
and
did.
whatever he did. One girl literally fell on the floor. She dropped. She started rubbing on him, and then she went.
She collapsed.
Yes, I did see that.
That's a classic move.
Ladies love Cool James.
He gets snaps and props and a pop.
All of it.
He should have made the list, according to our man expert. We all agree. At least he's in the episode or the issue.
That's right.
That's a good thing.
What about you, Mia?
I don't
Who
know
do
where
you
his
think?
picture is in here.
I
I'm sure
can't
it's
find
somewhere.
it either. I'm so
Jude Law. What happened? Where is he?
He's in there.
He's in
Let's
the
find
issue.
him. I'll find him.
There he
Here we
is.
go. I mean,
He is just
let's
gay
look
enough.
at this. Anyway, if
He's got a
anyone
lot
has
of
forgotten
style.
him, if anyone hasn't seen him, rent Talented Mr. Ripley. If anyone has forgotten his beauty on that beach,
He does have sort of an
they have
intense look
completely
about him.
forgotten. Very serious, very
His
and that's
eyes.
sexy.
Eyes. Oh my
His
God.
eyes
It's
are
just
like light.
captivating. Absolutely,
They're- those eyes,
you're
like
glued
Paul
into
They're gonna
Eyes,
hypnotize you.
boom.
Very
Right.
much so.
You're
Just
getting sexy.
great style.
You're getting
You want to
sexy.
take your clothes off. It's getting hot in here.
He also pulls that kind
Jude
of gruff
against the
look.
law. Let's go.
I don't blame you. He does have that look about him. He looks like, you're the only person in the room when he's.
Very much.
when
In this
he's with
picture,
you.
they really have that James Dean thing going on, who never wanted to smile, always that serious face, but that's what really pulled people in, made him almost mysterious.
Right, a little mystique.
And that's always
I would
very
have to
sexy.
say Jude Law is very mysterious, and you don't really know about him. Even
And
though
again,
it's
he's a
public.
family man, and he talks about his family and
exactly.
all that, and just that sincerity really comes out of people.
Well, let's see. If I could have anyone that's not on this list, I'm so glad you remembered his name earlier. That Rupert Everett.
Where is Rupert too?
Where is he? I don't
Who
care
are
if
these
he's gay. He
people?
should be on the
People
damn
magazine.
list.
But they need to come on Manizer and we can have a
don't-
discussion.
We don't care. Straight, gay, it doesn't matter.
No.
If
Never
you're
has,
sexy,
never
you're
will.
sexy.
No, exactly.
You know,
You don't have to write anything 100 times.
No, indeed.
Come on in.
I will not be attracted to Rupert Everett. I'd rather break my own hand.
I would be punished. I'd stay in detention just to
Every
kiss him.
movie I've ever seen him in, he is just got
And
style.
My best friend's wedding.
Exactly.
That
He
new movie,
was so
Unconditional
funny.
Love. Oh my!
He was in that,
gosh.
and,
it's sort of at the beginning he's sort of scruffy and masked, and he's got a goatee, which I don't really like as much. So I wasn't. But I was like, Later in the film, he cleans up his act. He goes to America, and he's shaved his face, and I really couldn't pay attention to the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie was like
irrelevant.
Look at him. Look at him.
He has that-
Look at him. Again, you are so sexy.
I mean, he has a big sign above him blinking handsome at all times. He's just tall, lean.
You don't even have to be
stands
able to
up
read
straight
to
and
know
just.
And
you
zany,
know.
but he was zany. He's like sort of that madcap kind. Again, I like the funny men, so
Right.
he was kind of funny in
He's
that
silly.
film. Silly and
silly.
and
Playful.
that is gives you the vulnerability, the sensitivity that comes through with the macho. I would say right here at NOA TV. We have a 10. We have like 5 of 10 that could be on the list right here. But that would seem biased if I were about to name our editor and our director as the top 10 sexy men of New Orleans.
There are a lot of sexy men here at NOA TV.
Here we are on the job, and woo,
Y'all manizing on the
behind
job.
the scenes.
Well, that's the great thing about being a manizer and having a TV show dedicated to it is that we're on the job all the time for you.
That's
right. We want to bring you the sexiest men alive. We want to bring you manizing from every angle. And the only way to do that is to be dedicated to it 24/7, 365. If you see us, we're manizing. Facts are facts.
That's right. And you can be slouchy and have not shaved. That's fine.
You can have gold
the
teeth and
Dirty blood dripping from your forehead, a gun in your pocket, a knife.
we can still think you're sexy. Well,
I'll give you a manicure.
One of my favorite local men that I think is extremely sexy men, and oddly or not so oddly enough, is very similar in looks here, is our friend Jason.
We call him Jason
Depp. Jill's mom penned it during a small hurricane party at our house. She took one look at him and immediately started calling him Jason Depp. So our friend Cajun Jason Melanson, I would say Jason Depp.
He cooks. He's got cheekbones. He has that eyes thing. He looks at you. Any men take a.
Why haven't me and Mia met him?
I don't know. You were probably
y'all
at your
trying
other.
to hide him?
That was it.
We're hiding his light under a bushel.
We have.
Jason.
I remember who y'all are
Probably
talking about.
met him at the juke joint, I would guess.
Oh,
But I would
Gina's
think
party.
he's one of the sexiest men in New Orleans.
I can't say that
I totally
local
forgot about
NOA
him.
TV men because it would seem biased. I'm just saying that for the show. But
it's true. They are some of the
I have
sexiest
a
men.
tie for the number one sexy man in New Orleans, and it is Jose and Jorge Colon. They're twins, and they really are sexy.
You can't go wrong
I
with
cannot
twins.
tell them apart.
If one doesn't work out, you always have another one.
Then you have not cornered the market on twins, believe me. But they are extremely talented, and someday they're probably going to be in People magazine because they're, like I said, talented musicians, and
They have that band,
they work
Almost
really hard.
Almost.
They're intelligent, and they're sexy. They have style. I've seen them scruffy. I've seen them dressed fancy.
We're always trying to get people to be thinking about men on every level. And, you hear a lot of complaints sometimes that we're in a very media-oriented, hype society. So how nice to focus for a while on the things that are all around us. Listen to Hannibal Lecter. Covet what's in your own backyard. You don't need
Again, come and eat my litter. At least you're here having dinner with me, even if it's me.
Nice Chianti.
Who doesn't want Chianti?
Oh, he's a sexy man too. I don't care. Serial killer style.
The bar is pretty low here on Manizer.
Well,
slink on in.
We've been dedicated always to the idea that you can, there's something sexy about virtually everybody.
Everybody.
And, we don't, just like women don't like to be seeing all of these archetypes in TVs and magazines of how we have to look in order to be sexy. I'm sure men don't want to have to see it all the time, what these are. Of course, we just spent all this time talking about the sexiest men, but you can tell from our discussion here among men experts that there's a lot of things that make
the
you
physical
sexy.
that make you sexy. You can be as sexy as possible and sure are dumb though. It's kind of like
Okay.
But I don't know, if you see someone and then you speak to them and
Right.
It's all about what's inside, but that first physical sight is always a head turner, as we see.
It's what you see first. You
Right.
see that before you get to see what's inside. But again, it's always interesting in these discussions to see the variety of things that make a person sexy and attractive to others. And I think that this vote for Johnny Depp is a great choice for number
2 thumbs
one.
up.
2 thumbs up.
All
That's
thumbs.
right. 8 thumbs up for Johnny Depp as the sexiest man alive. But we're interested in, of course, in hearing what you, our home audience, has to think about it as well. So please, email us at manizer@hotmail.com and let us know what you think about the men on this list. And give us some feedback about the sexiest men that you encounter in your everyday life. Let us know what you think about the list and about your local sexy men. And Jill and I would like to thank our guests, of course, Mia and Andrew, for being with us today here on Manizer and discussing this very important thing, sexiest men and what makes them that way. This is important stuff that we all need to know about and recognize and have a little bit better understanding about. So thanks again to our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we loved having you.